Despite a few nerfs, Venomancer remains one of the strongest heroes of patch 7.27, and one of the biggest advantages of Venomancer is that you can play him in basically any role, but probably the premier role for Venomancer is in the offlane. So today we're going to take a look at KheZu playing Venomancer in the offlane. Welcome back to the Church of Obelisk. My name is Yon. I know I haven't put out videos very regularly in the last couple of weeks, but I plan to get back to 2 or 3 videos a week soon. But in the meantime, I would suggest checking out my stream if you're feeling Church of Obelisk content deprived. I stream twice a week, on Mondays at 5 PM GMT and on Fridays at 1 PM GMT, which if you're watching this video right when it comes out, should be just a couple of hours after the video comes out, assuming that I managed to edit and upload this in a timely manner. But now let's get into the video. So we have our Venomancer paired with a Pudge, which of course is not the strongest laner, but generally speaking, as a Venomancer you want to have some sort of melee offlaner that is some sort of initiator, and Pudge kind of semi-fits that role. Like, you can initiate with a good hook, but it's not very reliable. And here you can see some of the weakness of Pudge. Even though it lands good hooks, still this trade is not going particularly well, so he feeds first blood here, and this is not exactly the ideal start for a Venomancer. That's one of the disadvantages of Venomancer. He's just not that good at fighting at the start. He's very good at trading, so because you have Poison Sting, you're always out-trading people, but when it just comes to straight up killing people, Venomancer is not the strongest. You have to be careful not to get killed, not to feed in lane at the start. And to help with the plan of not feeding, KheZu has gone for a very conservative item build. He's gone for tangos and a healing salve, as well as plenty of stats here to help him trade better at the start and survive the early laning phase. And because of that, he actually survives this encounter and now can salve back up to close to full health and keep fighting. And in the meantime, our Pudge is able to find a nice little kill here. And of course he sends himself out some extra regen, see another set of tangos, as well as finishing a bracer, which is a pretty good item to have on Venomancer. It gives you good mono plus hit damage, which is something that Veno struggles with. He has very low base damage, as well as just giving some extra tankiness and HP regen, which is also quite useful on Venomancer. But as long as you have enough HP regen, as long as you have enough regen items, you can just always stay in the lane and keep out trading your opponents. Depending on the lane, you want to go for either stat items that help you survive, like this bracer, magic wand and circlet, or you're going to go for movement speed items like boots of speed and windlace. But here we're playing against a Riki who is very, very mobile and can chase us down, build a disruptor who can lock us down. The movement speed is not actually that great here, so we'd rather go for these tanky items. And here you can see we do a lot of damage here with our 3 points here. 2 points in Poison Sting, 1 in Venomous Gale. That is the very standard build at level 3. And then we typically after that want to level up our Plague Wards. That is because Poison Sting, it's great for laning, but outside the laning it doesn't do that much, because it scales pretty well, but it's just not a very strong fighting ability. So if you just max this instead of the wards, you can do lots of sustained damage, but you're not good at actually fighting, which is why this typically gets left at 2 points and then maxing out the Plague Wards. But as we're going to see in this particular game, it's going to actually put 3 points in Poison Sting. That's sort of a way of winning in the lane. That's like the better laning ability. Because the problem with Plague Wards is that they're not that strong at level 1. So and level 2 also kind of mediocre. So it's really in the higher levels they're very strong. Whereas this is sort of abilities that pay off right away. If you want to be like really hard commit to winning the lane, you can also just put your level 4 point into Venomous Gale. This gives you extra damage in lane and extra kill potential, but it's going to slow down your mid-game peak and slow down your farming. As you can see, he's investing heavily into these small items. This also helps him to win this lane, but still you can see as soon as the Pudge leaves, he can very easily die here. Since Pudge is returning now, we can start playing a bit more aggressively, and so Ricky gets kind of baited in here, jumps forward, and now we can turn around and get probably the kill on Disruptor, which is much easier kill. So we get that kill. Venomancer actually levels up the Poisoner, which is also something you often don't want to do, but here in this case it gives us a kill, so it's definitely worth it. So definitely for our farming, it would be better to just skill up Plague Wards. Gives us better farming and just more mana efficiency, because if you just use our Venom Scale, our Wards and our Poison Nova, it's gonna put quite a strain on our mana. But here in this game, he's gone for Honor of Shadows and Infused Raindrops, so that's gonna help him out with the mana regen. And then he's actually gonna go for Guarding Greaves. Because Venomancer, in terms of boots, you have generally two options. You can either go for Tranquil Boots, this is probably the most common choice, or you can go for Arcane Boots, which usually means you want to go for Guarding Greaves. You can also kind of go for Power Dreads, which is not a bad choice, but just generally the other two choices are superior, because Venomancer just doesn't care too much about right-clicking and attack speed. And the threat vision is not actually that great on him, because, you know, these wards are so cheap, it's hardly even worth threat switching for those. But you can see it's just sort of getting a lot of value here. This Ricky, even though Ricky has a lot of HP regen, he's still struggling. As soon as he shows himself, he's getting a whole lot of damage here. So what you often want to do as Venomancer is, after the laning stage winds down, you want to go into the dead lane. Venomancer is kind of a hero that can play the dead lane quite well. He's not that hard to kill, but if your opponents kill you, you do so much poison damage, you have all these wards sitting around, that it's oftentimes not even just worth it to commit that much on a Venomancer, because even if you kill him, you take so much damage and you can't really take objectives afterwards. So he's really good at defending these lanes, and this allows his carry to find a safer farm in the off lane, in the jungle, or in the triangle. You can see he has an Arc Warden here. This is their main carry, this is their position 1, so this Arc Warden needs a lot of space, and one way of creating that space is put pressure in the dead lane and just take that dangerous farm. That is what Venomancer is all about. It's about taking the farm that other heroes don't want to take. You don't want to, you know, you could farm really fast in like a triangle. You set up your wards here, you farm all these camps. This is very efficient farming, but you want to leave that safe farm to your Arc Warden, and you yourself take the more dangerous farms. He's being very obnoxious here, putting up all these wards and sort of daring people to gank him, which then in turn creates space for his other cores. KheZu is just playing this very, very boldly. He has an Oracle behind him, which is why he feels fairly safe doing this. And even though he sees a couple of enemy heroes, he's still just playing aggressively, being annoying, but now he's kind of bitten a bit too much. Gets the Disruptor kill here, or at least the Oracle gets it, but now he has to get out. He has Oracle ulted, but there's so many heroes nearby that no real way of surviving this, but he's just going to try to put as much damage as possible before he dies. There's like a big rotation, and they only get the 1 kill, so it's 2 for 1, so it's kind of a good trade here for the enemy team, but still they're all low, they can't really do very much with this victory. In this game, KheZu has gone for a rather unusual item build, maxing out Poison Sting first over the Plague Ward, which I don't quite understand exactly why he's doing this. I understood like the 3rd level in Poison Sting, but I'd much rather have level 4 Plague Ward and level 3 Poison Sting rather than the reverse. But that's what he's going with here. Another good fight here, and you can just see how much damage this Venomancer is putting out to get the proof on exchange here. But we have to be careful that Venom Scale actually allows people to deny. So the Poison Sting and the Venom Scale is both lethal damage, whilst the ultimate is not lethal. but only the Venomous Gale allows enemies to deny if heroes are low from that. There isn't really any set item build on Venomancer. The beauty of this hero and why he's so flexible is that he does not need any items. He has kind of like a self-contained kit, like it needs like a little bit of mana regen, but other than that, he already does tons of damage, offers some utility, not that much, but mostly damage. And this means you can just buy whatever items you want, specifically whatever items your team needs. So if your team needs some nice healing in the fights, you can go for a mech. If your team needs a pipe, you can go build a pipe. If your team needs a Heaven's Helmet, you can go build a helmet. If you need a 4-star, you can build a 4-star, and so on. Just whatever items your team needs, whatever utility or items your team needs, you can buy them. We are a short-range hero that kind of wants to get in the middle of things to get a good poison nova. So you want some tankiness in your items, and he's gone for some smaller items that give some tankiness, bracer, magic wand, and then Shadows also kind of some tankiness with the attributes and armor, as well as of course offering a good amount of mana regen, which as we discussed is useful in Venomancer, especially after the nerf to Plague Wards. And Shadows is just a really efficient item in general. It gives quite a lot of value for its cost, and Shadows is definitely very much a viable item. Very much you should have one of these in your team on some hero, pretty much always. Even if you don't want to go for a vessel, this is a perfectly efficient item on its own. Then after going for these 3 small efficient items, he's now going for the big Guardian Greaves. Now, if there's one criticism I would make is that I would like to have like another item here, maybe another Raindrop, maybe something like a Windlace would be a nice addition here. But other than that, this item build seems really strong to me. And when you're farming with these wards, it's important not to stay too long in a camp. You have a lot of damage with Poison Sting. This in total does 450 damage if it's going for its full duration. You don't need to finish creeps off. You can just hit them a couple of times and then just leave your wards to finish the job. This way you might lose some neutral items or some experience, but at least you're getting the gold and you're farming just really efficiently. And so in these fights, it's important not to overcommit. You just want to drag out those fights, you want to stay alive and put out as much damage over time as possible. And you want to constantly put down those Plague Wards, put as much coverage with these as possible, use them for vision as well as for damage and for controlling areas. And you see he's never even committed this Poison Nova. He's just playing this very patiently, and so eventually they're able to find the Slark, and with that come out clear and top in this fight. It's perfectly viable to go for a Veno and Venomancer. That's going to amp all the damage that you do with your spells. Also it's going to amp spells that your teammates do. But oftentimes the Venomancer, the better way of actually increasing your damage is by staying alive longer. And so that's what this item build is built around. You have these Guardian Greaves, all these tanky items to help you sustain here. Also the Guardian Greaves is nice because of the spell. You can dispel that silence from Bloodseeker, which is always nice. And then you're sort of thinking about a Yules. Another strong item here would be a 4-staff against that Slark, as well as against the Ricky, so that's pretty good. Has some problems here with the Bloodseeker, but in general 4-staff very strong item here. You could also go for Heaven's Helmet, quite strong against all these right-clicking heroes, especially the Slark. Of course, Helmet cannot be dispelled. So if a hero like Slark or Ricky jumps on you, you can save yourself with a Halberd, or at least part of time. And so that's what he's switching over to for this game. Also getting as a neutral item the Nether Shawl. He was also thinking about getting the Essence Ring. The thing is that a lot of people sort of neglect is that it's not just about which is the best neutral item in you. It's also about considering what are the best neutral items in other heroes. And so in Venomancer, sure, Essence Ring is a great item, but so is Nether Shawl. Nether Shawl is an item that's like more specific. Like this item is good on like literally every hero. Another shell is good on only some heroes, and Venomancer definitely among those. Really boosts your damage, and it trades some armor for a lot of magic resistance. There's like not that much magic damage to the enemy team, but still enough to justify getting this item. So, and this just leaves a very strong item on some other hero. You can probably make better use of that essence ring. Keep in mind that your plague wards actually block camps, but if it's enemy camps you're blocking, that's actually a good thing. So just put on the ward here, which unfortunately dies. You can actually put a control group for your wards, so just like double click your wards and assign a control group, and then you're always going to have all your wards on one control group. Using select all other units doesn't work for wards, but just have to have a manual control group. And you can also last hit properly with your wards. You can just issue a stop command, and then wards will stop attacking, and then you can just last hit at the right time. And in this fight, it's just important to keep spamming all those wards, keep spamming your spells, and just staying alive. And as long as you stay alive, you just pump out a huge amount of damage. This fight went really well for his team, and they're only 1k up here, but you already see that the game is very much turning in their favor. And the thing is, you know, if you look at the net worth, if you look at the kills, it's actually fairly even. But a big advantage of Venomancer is just he's like a hero that helps you push and prevents the enemy team from pushing. So when KheZu's team win a fight, they can keep pushing because they've all sustained, they have the Under Shadows here, they have the Guardian Greaves. But when the enemy team win a fight, they're all poisoned up, they can't really keep pushing, and they'll just sort of have to go back to farming or go back to healing. And because of this, the Dire team has just been able to get better map presence, and this allows them to slowly outfarm the enemy team. After Guardian Greaves and Heaven's Halberd is going for a 4-star, which is of course great against Ricky and Slark. And you can see he just does so much damage here. Disruptor has to run away right away. But it's also important not to get too overeager in these kinds of chases, because if you get held out of position, you can definitely die quite quickly. But here his entire team is behind him, so there's plenty of backup here, and also have a Poison Nova available in a second. So you want to make sure that you get a good coverage on the Poison Nova. Don't just use it on one person generally. So they can keep chasing here, and have all the sustain to keep fighting, and now they can start taking some objectives. And their Arc Warden is still just farming, but he's so slowly accumulating items, and now he's finished his Mjolnir, and he's kind of ready to start fighting at least a little bit here. So they keep finding these kills, and this Punch is actually really good at hooking. So find some nice kills with that. And that's kind of a disadvantage of their team here. They don't really have any reliable initiator. But at least they have the Punch, they have the Conquer who can sort of keep people in place. That's of course a big downside of Venomancer, is that you're just lacking this able, you lack the initiation. So you need typically your position 4 or sometimes your mid lane or a safe laner to fill that role. And here it's like a kind of fulfilled. So Punch trying to get some hooks, not finding the best connections here. But nothing is really dying on the Dire team, and they are finding quite some kills. So now with Arc Warden joining in, they can start taking some objectives here, take this tier 2 tower, and then probably go for Roshan would probably be the prudent choice. You can of course try to siege high ground, but it's quite difficult, and much safer just go for Roshan. So one of the big advantages of Venomancer is you have these sustained pushes, so it's easy to retreat if things go wrong. So they can maybe kind of poke at high ground a little bit, but much safer to just sit outside here and try to get some punch hooks in here. And if they do get a kill here on the punch hook, they force on the Disruptor ultimate without really losing anything, and they can just keep going here because they have so much sustain with Guardian Greaves. And yeah, Slark forced to ultimate, quite early here, and he's not really getting any kills. Also, the Heaven's Herald, of course, an important tool to control that hero. And yeah, they have two Heaven's Heralds here, so quite hard for these physical damage foes to actually find some sort of kills. And now with 2 people dead, they can start pushing this high ground. Don't even need Aegis here. And you can see him just keep spamming out those plague walls. These should pretty much never be on cooldown, just always cast them. You can cast them of course for these pushes, but also just for scouting, for extra vision, for extra safety. And so they managed to get this lane of Rax for free, and can just retreat now and go back to pushing the next lane. Making some pretty cheeky farm here, but notice how he's using a ward to secure this, so unless people are smoked, he's going to see them approaching here with that ward. And you can also see that he leaves the camp before the creeps are actually dead, because they're going to die from the poison. Now push train is coming in the bottom lane, and again the same plan here, siege the tower with all these wards, and enemy team looks like they've kind of given up here. So this is pretty much going to be the end of the game. The replay still goes on for like another 2 minutes or 3, but from here on out it's basically over. Once you have all the aura and utility items your team requires, you can also opt for something like an Aghanim's or a Blink Dagger to improve your own damage output, contribute more to your team by just having more poison damage. It's all sort of about what kind of items your team needs, and once those requirements are fulfilled, you can sort of buy more selfish items that make your own core abilities stronger. So that's how we play Venomancer Offlane, very powerful hero in this patch. And if you like this video, please share it with a friend, spread the word about the Church of Obelisk, and also visit my Twitch channel. It's at twitch.tv/JonGunnarsson. And if you're an offline player and want to master another of the meta heroes of the current patch, I have a video on Doom for your consideration, where I go through all the different creeps you can devour, and Obelisk Villing. I will see you there.